Open season is a movie where it's a season and they open it up. I don't really know what to say about this movie. It's the most generic possible thing you could put out as your studio's first feature film. It's taking the big grumpy guy and annoying sidekick shtick that started with Shrek and putting it in the woods. Wow, amazing, how innovative. Now that I think about it, there's actually a scene early on in the movie where some humans mistake the deer for being a donkey, so yeah. They knew exactly what they were doing. I thought this movie was actually perfectly fine for the first 30 minutes. I enjoyed watching this bear bond with his human mama, and the deer wasn't really that annoying yet, and the villain was actually pretty funny and entertaining. In fact, he remains that way for the entirety of the movie. I'll give it that. But then we get to the woods, and Shrek and Donkey have to find their way home, and now it's just a series of terrible poop humor and forgettable characters, showing up with no rhyme or reason or story structure, and it really blows. Patrick Warburton showed up for 2 minutes, and that was nice. And again, the villain was actually pretty solid. But for the most part, I really checked out with this movie during its second half. It's nothing special at all. The donkey character is literally responsible for all of the movie's problems, and he contributes nothing. During the big emotional blowout where the main characters part ways, because of course that's in this movie, I was actually pretty satisfied. Yeah, Manny had every right to abandon Sid here. Good for him. But then he comes back for no reason, and he helps all the fairy tale creatures even though they're all really unlikable and annoying, and then the movie's over. It was extremely mediocre and a breath of fresh air compared to most of the other movies I watched before it. That's where we're at now, I guess.
You're that bear that got his butt by a squirrel.
And they had nuts.
One time when I was 10, I had to go see a special doctor for something, all the way out in Baltimore, Maryland. It was a scary experience being so far from home, waiting in a doctor's office at a pretty young age. And the worst part of all of it, the most negative aspect of this whole experience that I still vividly remember, is the fact that they were playing Open Season 2 in the waiting room. It was horrific. At least I saw the doctor and everything was fine health-wise after that, but the Open Season 2 related scars I received that day will never heal. Rewatching it all those years later, I remember just how terrible every aspect of this movie was. The entire plot hinges on rescuing the wiener dog who had 2 lines in the first movie and was really only there as a joke. Now the movie is focused on the joke side character, and the bear main character is now a side character, and the deer main character is still a main character, and you wish he was a side character, because he's somehow even less likable than he was in the first film where he wasn't even likable. What does his girlfriend see in him? Honestly, she's better off with a Patrick Warburton impersonator deer. Why is the Patrick Warburton impersonator asshole deer the one officiating this wedding? Why doesn't Bear do it? You can't seriously tell me this deer has a license to officiate a wedding. These are animals. They clearly don't need licenses to do this. Anyone could do it. Why is it the asshole deer that both the bride and groom hate? Oh well, who cares? The deer is a gigantic asshole and I really want them to just kick his ass off a cliff. He deserves it. Also, the weenie dog they're trying to rescue gets saved by the porcupine halfway through the movie. So now the stakes are, we need to warn the team that's trying to rescue the weenie dog that he doesn't need rescuing anymore and it's a waste of time. Kinda like this movie. I guess there's some kind of fun shenanigans at the water park and I thought Crispin Glover actually did a really good job as the villain. Also, they couldn't get Ashton Kutcher back to voice the deer. They couldn't really get anyone back to voice any of the other characters either. So the replacement they got was Joel McHale? And honestly, this is the hardest I've ever seen him act before. Except for that one episode of Community where he had to play the dean for that commercial. Every other time I've seen him, he's just being himself, so it's weird to see him be a character for once. But yeah, 10-year-old me was exactly right. This movie sucks so hard. From the characters being shittier than they usually are, to that god-awful pop song at the end that I've never even heard of before. It just reeks of cheapness so much that a 10-year-old picked up on how cheap that song was. What's your excuse, society? Together we can fight back against the Open Season menace. Take that steamroller you purchased and run over every copy of Open Season 2 on DVD. Don't stop until they're all crushed, just like my sanity. Shrek the Third was a more worthwhile addition to the Shrek franchise than Open Season 3 was to the Open Season franchise. Given the choice between the two of them, I would take Shrek the Third in a heartbeat. I could stop there, but fuck it. The bear goes to a circus and his animal buddies have to bust him out. But there's no urgency because he doesn't want to leave because he's horny for Lady Bear. So there's no tension and no stakes and no reason to watch the movie. They bring back the pets from the second movie for absolutely no reason because they add nothing. We are 3 movies in and I still don't know why this deer has any friends, let alone a wife and kids. Why does anyone put up with open season? Talking about it is futile. It is unending misery and torment. After this experience, I don't know if I'll ever be whole again. A part of me is forever sullied. If I got anything out of watching this franchise, it's a huge appreciation for the Madagascar series, because at least its characters are funny and likable, even if the movies are kind of average. Spending time with these shitty, tepid, boring, basic-ass animals has rotted my brain so thoroughly. The funniest aspect of this movie is the fact that the 4th movie completely ignores its existence, just like that one good franchise. Every new character introduced in this 3rd movie is just completely gone in the 4th one, including the bear's new girlfriend and the deer's kids. Even Shrek Forever After kept the kids. Sony really just shat this out and then abandoned it in the woods, and you should do that too. Go take your copy of Open Season 3 and chuck it into the woods somewhere. I'm kidding, obviously. That's littering and you shouldn't do that. What you should do is purchase a steamroller and run over your copy of Open... Okay, so get this. Out of the 4 open season movies, they literally had to replace the voice actors for the 2 main characters in every single one. Not just, oh, we couldn't get the big celebrities from the first movie back for the direct-to-DVD sequels, so we'll just find new actors that'll play them in all these sequels. No, they literally got new actors to play them just for Open Season 2, then they couldn't get those guys back, so they got new actors for Open Season 3, who then didn't come back for Open Season Scared Silly. No one wants to voice these terrible characters for more than one movie, which is truly emblematic of what a haphazard, utter mess of a franchise Open Season is. And do you want to know the craziest part? This one is honestly the best direct-to-DVD sequel out of all of them. And despite the subtitle Scared Silly implying this is just some one-off terrible Halloween special, this one is actually the most like a direct sequel to the original. It brings back the original villain, who's genuinely really entertaining in both this and the first movie, adds in a ton of references to the first film that were lacking in 2 and 3, and generally feels like it's going in a more natural direction for this franchise than either of the previous sequels. It's not as bad as either of them. With that said, it's still bad. It's boring, it's frustrating, the main characters still suck, but weirdly, there are some things I like about it compared to 2 and 3. The animation is strangely better than all the other ones, which I definitely did not expect for the 3rd direct-to-DVD sequel. I figured they'd try even less at this point, but it actually looks pretty decent. The villain from the first movie is still great, like I said. This one isn't afraid to get really weird, like the weenie dog thinks he's a werewolf and he has an entire opera number about it. There's a random minecart chase over lava. The villain recruits these 2 random Canadians who look like Aardman designed them, and they have live-action photos of Alex Trebek and William Shatner hanging on their restaurant walls. Yeah, this movie's occasionally fun, and if you really want to see how the story of the first open season continues, this is the only follow-up installment you should watch. It's still like a 3 out of 10 movie, and you shouldn't watch it if you like good movies, and you shouldn't watch anything from the open season franchise. It's all terrible, but this one was less terrible than it could have been. I guess that's where we're at now. Congratulations, Sony.